Hong Kong has the highest per capita meat consumption in the world, according to a 2011 United Nations report. People here on average consume 150 kilograms of meat every year. That is about twice the weight of a man. The UN report also says that up to a third of all cancers are related to diet. Like in many other parts of the world, vegetarianism is increasingly popular in Hong Kong. Some chose not to eat meat for health reasons, others want to benefit the environment. But in the city of meat lovers, what are the challenges of giving up those pork chops and hamburgers?
At mealtimes, meat is often the centerpiece. 70% of the typical diet in Hong Kong is meat and dairy. Our pork consumption per capita tops Asia, according to 2011 statistics from the United States Department of Agriculture. Besides transport and electricity production, the meat industry is a major contributor of greenhouse gas emissions, says the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. How does the meat that we eat affect the planet that we live? Miss Celia Lau, a nutritionist and education officer of the social campaign Green Monday, is urging Hong Kongers to cut back on meat to combat climate change.
And the number one cause of greenhouse gas emissions is actually from livestock industry. The livestock industry accounted for about 18%, which is nearly 1/5 of the greenhouse gas emission around the world. So an easy and effective way to reduce greenhouse gas emission would be going meatless by reducing meat consumption.
Established in 2012, Green Monday is a non-profit social enterprise that encourages people to reduce their carbon footprint and improve their health by going meatless on Monday. Restaurants, schools, and the Hong Kong International Airport have joined the campaign. University students also have their own take on cutting back their meat consumption by calling for more veggie options on campus and holding a vegetarian day. But what are the veggie choices in Hong Kong? In a Chinese society, the vegetarian choice of eating is most commonly linked to the Buddhist cuisine. Imitation meat is used in this dish of beef and mushroom rolls. Western eateries catering to diners with specific dietary needs are making their way into Hong Kong. Grassroots Pantry is a Western-style vegetarian restaurant that serves plant-based foods. Like many people who tried to make the switch, Peggy Chan, chef and owner of the restaurant, also had difficulties.
Probably at the beginning it would be very, very difficult to stay vegetarian. But in the last 2 years, a lot of these Western-style vegetarian restaurants have popped up, and even if they're not vegetarian, they would have veggie options. So I'd say it would be easier. There are tons of Chinese-style vegetarian restaurants, but they're not necessarily the healthiest.
While her restaurant serves vegetarian, the regular customers are far from herbivores and vegans.
We have customers from all across the spectrum, to be honest, and that's exactly what we want. We didn't want to just cater to the people who are already educated or sophisticated diners who already know about the healthy eating, veggie, vegan, gluten-free scene.
But what exactly is a vegetarian diet? Joshua Keel is a registered dietitian who teaches nutrition workshops at the Time to Grow Urban Farm in Hong Kong. He is not vegetarian. Joshua explains there's more than one type of herbivore.
There's quite a few different vegetarian diets. So you'll have lacto-ovo vegetarians who eat dairy and also eggs. You'll have vegans who abstain from any sort of animal product. There's also flexitarians who kind of eat maybe just a small amount of meat and mostly have a plant-based diet. And then you'll also have pesco-vegetarians who eat some fish but abstain from other types of meat. So there's lots of different types of vegetarians, but the main thing is that they eat primarily plant-based foods.
Apart from fruits and vegetables, grains, and some meat replacements such as eggs, dairy products, nuts, legumes, and seeds make up the diet. But does the vegetarian diet lead to nutritional deficiencies?
A properly planned vegetarian diet can provide all the nutrients needed for growth and development.
Joshua says nutritional benefits of vegetables are often overlooked.
Like calcium, for example, well, maybe not most, but many vegetarians do consume milk. Milk is a good source of calcium, but it's also not the best source. There's a lot of really good plant-based sources of calcium. Some of the dark leafy green vegetables, for instance, which contain calcium. They also contain vitamin K and magnesium, which are also very important for bone health, but don't get much attention because the dairy industry is so powerful with its lobbying.
But what happens if it's not well planned?
If you are not replacing the meat with appropriate type of food, for example, tofu, legumes, those food that rich in protein, then you are likely to suffer from protein deficiency. Protein deficiency, you can see you will have some muscle being wasting muscles, and other nutrients that are likely to be deficient in vegetarian diet includes iron, which is very important for transport of oxygen in our blood. So if you're not getting enough iron, you're going to suffer from anemia.
Though there is no conclusive evidence to prove whether abstaining meat affects growth and development, many people would still like to give it a go.
I think the reception to organic and eating healthy in the last 2 years has grown so much, and people they're ready for it, they want to eat healthy. It's just that it's not available to them.
Dr. Paul Stapleton is head of the English department at the Hong Kong Institute of Education. He writes a column for the Southtown Morning Post that talks about the impact of a meat-centered diet on the environment. He is astounded by the sheer quantity of animal products that are used and eaten in Hong Kong.
Another example is in the other column that I wrote in the newspaper, and that's regarding the difficulty. You can go to a buffet, and it's remarkably difficult in some cases to even get a salad that doesn't have bits of bacon or bits of shrimp or some sort of animal source product in it. And
the lack of veggie choices in the city is making it hard for restaurant goers to have less meat when eating out.
People needed to go to Zai Po, a vegetarian restaurant, to have vegetarian dish because they cannot have vegetarian options in ordinary restaurant. But after the establishment of Green Monday, we have been collaborating with a lot of restaurants and shops to provide vegetarian options. So it is now much more easier to order or have vegetarian dish in many of the restaurants, in many of the large food chains nowadays in Hong Kong.
Besides the environment, others go vegetarian because of their concern for animals. In his column, Addicted to Meat, Dr. Stapleton says he became vegetarian at a young age because of his empathy for animals.
a third reason would be the treatment of animals. The way animals are treated, I don't think is, especially factory farming, I don't think is nice at all. In fact, the animals live pretty miserable lives. Farm animals do.
Doris Lee, a longtime vegetarian, says people eat veggie for very personal reasons.
我唔覺得一個食素食嘅人就一定係好人，或者係關心地球嘅人，或者係佢有宗教背景嘅完全係一個可以有完全好奇怪、好 unique 嘅 reason 佢去食 vegetarian。其實我自己
To me, that's because I love animals.
But it is hard to reduce your meat consumption in Hong Kong. For many people, the lack of choices and peer pressure is discouraging. Many people gather to have a night without meat, but they're not necessarily vegetarian. The Meat Free Club is an example.
Actually, I'm not a vegetarian, but like sometimes you feel like you want something like vegetables and feel fresh about it. So yeah, but then like my friends, like they doesn't really like vegetarian food. That's why I joined people here and tried it out.
There were not many places offering vegetarian dishes, and not many people know about that.
She also says vegetarians are still a minority in Hong Kong, where most are either Buddhists or expatriates.
Another difficulty of not going for vegetarianism in the first place was opposition from my family, as they always questioned me why I had to choose not to eat meat, and they kept convincing me not to do so. They thought that not eating meat might adversely affect my health.
Reducing your meat consumption isn't an easy task, but starting slow, says Joshua, seems like a good way to go.
Probably going a little bit more slowly with it. You don't need to make that leap all at once. You can focus on, 1 day a week eating vegetarian and seeing how it goes, and just experimenting with lots of new vegetarian recipes.
But being a vegetarian doesn't always make you healthy.
Well, I think with vegetarians, a lot of people just consider vegetarianism automatically healthy. But there's a lot of foods that don't contain any animal products that aren't healthy. Potato chips, Coca-Cola, you can still have a lot of processed foods in your diet that aren't very good for your body, but are vegetarian foods.
Vegetarianism has its benefits and shortcomings, but it's just one way of living. The bigger issue at stake is that no matter what we eat, it will have a significant impact on our health and the environment.